The Ford Explorer is America's all-time best-selling SUV. But we couldn't leave it at that, because you still have unmarked paths to pursue. So we gave it an available 400 horsepower engine. It's up to you what you do with that power. The 2025 Ford Explorer. It's all in the name.
Based on S&P Global Mobility 1946 to current U.S. total new cumulative registrations for all vehicles identified as SUVs. Horsepower and torque ratings based on premium fuel per SAE J1349 standard. Your results may vary.
All episodes of A Trial by Podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Much to their parents' dismay, neither host is a lawyer, journalist, or investigator. Just two people with microphones and Wi-Fi. While they strive to research thoroughly and use credible sources, their opinions are not facts. Shocking, we know. All actions discussed are alleged, and all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the full legal mumbo-jumbo, check the show notes.
We're in. I'm plugged in. I'm turned on. We're good.
Okay. All right. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Emily.
And today, I am going to touch base, circle back to...
Like a wrap around.
An episode that we did previously, which was episode 20, The Murders of Blake and Mary Jo Hadley. So if you remember from that episode, Blake and Mary Jo were horrifically murdered by their 17-year-old son, Tyler. Now, in November of this year, 2024, Tyler actually did a new interview with Court TV, and I believe it's his first interview with the press. It was very interesting, and so today, I'm going to do a little follow-up and tell you guys all about it. All right, so this is going to come out on New Year's Eve. So Happy New Year
Happy
to
New
everybody.
Year.
I hope you guys had a
Thank
great
God.
a great Christmas, a great Hanukkah, a great Kwanzaa, and any other holidays. I'm not sure what else is in December.
Festivus.
But yeah, so we are doing like a little bit of a shorter episode. And for me, when I say shorter, it's probably going to be 45 minutes to an hour. But I just wanted to, I had watched this Tyler Hadley interview. I thought it was super, super intriguing. And I wanted to tell you guys about it. I wanted to tell Emily about it too. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do a quick little follow-up. It's New Year's Eve. You guys are probably busy anyway. So it'll be a little bit of a shorter episode. And then I believe on Thursday of this week, don't yell at me if I don't stand by this, but I'm going to try my best to get out the John Bonet follow-up Thursday of this week. So that'll be January 2nd.
Okay.
So yeah.
Don't drink and drive. Just a note, if you're in an Uber, tell them to put our pod on.
Yeah.
Listen to it on your way home.
Yeah. Tell your Uber driver about us.
Huh?
We need your
Spread
Uber
the
drivers
word.
to listen. Because I know they got one AirPod in, Uber drivers.
At all times.
Yeah. And I feel like they need something interesting to listen to.
Yep.
So tell your Uber driver about us. While you're at it, if you can give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening for our Christmas gift, that would literally make my day. We're trying to build those up. It just helps us with the algorithm and helps everybody know that you guys like us. So I guess to end off the year too, before we get in the story real quick, this is why it's going to end up being a full-length episode anyway.
The tangents.
Because we yappas.
We yappas.
But I just wanted to say, so we started the podcast this year. I think our first episode, June 25th.
of this year, not even a full year.
In my mind, it counts as July because it's June 25th. We released one episode in June and then the next episode was July. So I'm like, I feel like it's been like a full 6 months. And it has been a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
But so much fun.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dude, it's crazy. I feel like a year has happened in the last 6 months.
I know. I've never been busier. And there are times when it's a little bit stressful, but overall, I love doing it. And it's been so exciting and so rewarding to see when we get new listeners and to get all your sweet messages and comments. People are so, there's some mean people too. There's some mean people, but we just
You always have those.
we don't even care about them.
Excuse me. We have over 10,000 followers on TikTok. Some
Over
followers
10,000? We have
on
almost
Instagram.
65,000 on TikTok.
Fuck. Yeah. So
Emily's out of
we
the
don't
loop.
care about your haters.
No, but it's been a very, very exciting year for us. And I think, at least in my mind, like, I didn't even think we were going to have ads by now. You know, I think we got really lucky because we had a couple of TikTok videos pay off. But
Pop off.
so I think it was a combination of a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck. But we're super grateful to all of you guys who listen every week and who give us a 5-star rating and who, you know, tell your friends about it or post it on your Instagram story. Or even if you just like listen every once in a while, it doesn't matter. We don't expect you guys to do a ton of hard work for us, but we just want to say thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Y'all are besties.
Yeah. So with that being said, let me tell you about Tyler Hadley.
Again.
So, like I said, we dropped this episode. It was episode 20, The Murders of Blake and Mary Jo Hadley. We dropped it on October 29th of this year, 2024. And the crime itself occurred on July 16th, 2011. So this was about 13 years ago now. And Tyler Hadley, so he was 17 at the time of the crime. He's now 30 years old. And he did this interview with Court TV, which just aired on November 17th. And go watch this interview, okay? I feel like we're going to have a conversation about it. I did not include all of the details because I'm not just trying to like steal their... I included a lot of quotes, whatever, but this is a long interview. It's 45 minutes long. I included like the stuff that was most interesting to me, but there's a lot of stuff out there or in the interview that is super interesting. And also Tyler, like... it's just interesting to watch his face and stuff as he's talking. And obviously, you're not going to get that here. You're not even going to hear it in his voice. So check out the interview. You can watch it on courttv.com for free. There's ads like every once in a while, but it's not that bad. It is so good. And like, what was I going to say about it?
You're not going to cover all the points because it's too long.
Oh, I'm going to link it in the show notes.
Oh.
That's what I was going to say. So I will link it in the show notes to make it easy for you to find, but it's called Teenage Rage Interview with a Killer. And the guy who interviews Tyler his name is David Scott. I love this man. He is the most like radio announcer voice of all time.
Ooh, I love a good voice.
He had a voice made for radio, but he's a handsome guy.
He's an interviewer.
It's not like, you know, I don't mean that as a diss, but he just has the best voice. So check it out. I promise you guys will find it very interesting. So to start off the interview, David asked Tyler what his 30-year-old brain thinks of his adolescent brain that brutally murdered his parents with a hammer. I guess I should say, too, if you haven't listened to the episode yet, you want to do that first.
Yeah.
So,
spoiler.
But let me give you a quick overview, just in case. 17-year-old kid brutally murders his parents with a hammer. There was not a huge history of abuse or anything like that. And then he puts their bodies into a bedroom. He throws all of the evidence in this huge pile on top of them, and he throws a party at the house with more than 60 people. Teenagers,
And
mostly.
he also locked his dogs in a closet, unfortunately.
I forgot about that.
I felt so bad. That's sad.
So, you know, that's kind of what this whole interview is about. And that's why David's asking him, what does your 30-year-old brain think of your adolescent brain? What do you think of
like, how's your
yourself now?
reflections going?
Exactly. And so Tyler tells David that all he was trying to do as a teen was con and manipulate people. That's where his mindset was at. And he admits now that there was really no reason for him to do any of that. He wasn't in this weird, precarious, scary situation or anything like that. Like, I think I compare this a lot to the Menendez brothers because I feel like that's one of the most famous cases of kids killing their parents.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that type of situation where the parent or one of the parents was, you know, brutally abusing them nonstop or anything like that. So David points out to Tyler that from his research, it seems that Tyler had a lot of mental health struggles as an adolescent. And Tyler agrees, yes, that is true. And David also points out that one of Tyler's doctors described him as experiencing hopelessness, helplessness, worthlessness. And he asks him, like, is that how you felt? Past tense. And Tyler responds, I do feel that way, yes. So it kind of seems
in that
like
dark place. Yeah.
he's still feeling hopeless, helpless, worthless, which at this point.
Well, I'm sure 15 years of prison will do that to you.
Yeah, exactly. And Tyler explains that this sense of self-hatred was something that he had since he was a child, not even a teen, since he was a child. And it wasn't something that was pushed on him by his parents or family members, or, it's not like he had a teacher that was like, you're going nowhere, kid.
Piece of shit. Yeah.
That's not what was happening. And David kind of presses him. He's like, well, where did this really come from? And Tyler, he's like, I don't really know, but no one put it on me, type of thing.
Yeah, like he was like, I'm just born this way.
And by the way, you're going to hear me say a lot. Like Tyler said, he kind of said this. If I don't say quote, unquote, it's not a quote. Then it's me paraphrasing, just so you guys know. But yeah, he was kind of just like, I don't really know where it came from, but I put it on myself. No one put it on me, kind of insinuating that he put it on himself. It was something that came from the inside. And he says that he had those feelings since he was in like second or third grade. And they just grew stronger as he got older.
That makes me so sad to think of like a second or third grader being like, I hate myself. Like I hate everyone around me. I hate myself. I hate what I'm doing. It's sad.
I know. It is heartbreaking. And I think we can feel empathy for Tyler before he did the horrible things that he did. But we talked about, like, in our first episode on the case, we talked about how he had an eating disorder and he had growth issues and he was on like these human growth hormones and all of this. And so even to this day, Tyler's saying, like, yeah, I had some major issues.
Yeah, like I had some issues going on there.
And it's just interesting because a lot of the times I think we like to think that it's more nurture than nature. But in his case, it kind of seems like a lot of these issues were not from his surroundings. It wasn't from his environment. It was coming from inside, from what we know, So Tyler was eventually diagnosed with depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, disruptive conduct disorder, social phobia, ADHD, bulimia, and hypothyroidism, which obviously that's not a mental disorder, but
yeah, but that controls a lot of stuff.
Yes, yeah, that can really throw your hormones off, and that can cause, weight issues, weighing too much, weighing too little, all of that. Now, David asks, how would you describe your parents? Because if this is all coming from you, like, what were your parents like? And Tyler responds, quote, saints. There ain't no other word for them, end quote. And that was like, when I went to watch this interview, that's what I wanted to know. Because
like what he thought of his parents to make him do that.
Right. In the original episode, when we covered it, we talked about there was a time when Tyler had told his friend, Michael Manter, I think Michael Manter is his name, that his father had punched him once. Like punched him in the face. And Michael even told police, I'm like 99% sure it was Michael, but it was definitely one of Tyler's friends. But the friend told police, yeah, Tyler said that his dad punched him, but I don't even know if that's true. And because it kind of got me, it gave me the impression like the friend was saying, Tyler's kind of a liar. Like he kind of makes stuff up.
Yeah.
And so it could be true. It could not be true. But either way, it wasn't, the friend kind of said it was, if it happened, it was like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Which obviously, if it happened, that's horrible. You should never punch your kid in the face. But that was never brought up or asked about in this court TV interview, which kind of makes me think it didn't happen. Because if it did, I feel like they would have definitely touched on it. But obviously, we don't know for sure. So Tyler, David's asking him, can you explain, what was your childhood like? Your parents are saints. Well, did you have a good childhood? And he said his childhood was pretty much idyllic. His parents were always there for him. Even when he was acting a fool, doing stupid shit, his parents were always there for him. And they were always trying to help him through these struggles. Now, from the age of 9, into his teen years, Tyler's parents took him to see multiple psychiatrists. So again, he's saying, I had these issues since I was a kid.
His parents saw it too, and they were trying to get him help.
Yes, and they were doing something about it from when he was 9. I mean, that's pretty young to go to a psychiatrist. Not that you shouldn't. It's good, you know? But they weren't doing anything they could to get Tyler help. But Tyler says that none of this treatment was ever effective for him. He admits that when he went to talk therapy, he never really tried hard enough to participate to actually get anything out of it. It's one of those things you get
That's
in
a big
what
thing.
You get out what you put in, and Tyler wasn't putting anything in. He admits that now. But he also says that the medications he was given over the years didn't seem to help him either. He says they didn't really make him worse, but they definitely weren't making him any better. Now, over the years, he tried Lexapro, Adderall, SSRIs, which some of these that I'm going to list are SSRIs, but I think there's more than my list here. Zoloft, he was on the human growth hormones. He had thyroid replacement hormones. He was on Stalexa, Visitril. This wasn't all at once. These were, a couple at once. And then,
yeah, they tried it. This didn't work. They tried something else.
Right. But like I said, none of it worked. And by the time Tyler was in his teen years, he was pretty out of control. So like we talked about in the first episode, Tyler was getting into a lot of trouble. He was drinking a lot. He was using drugs. He stole his parents' credit cards. He was getting into fights. He got arrested that one time and I think he spent like 2 weeks in jail. And David asked Tyler, like, were you afraid that your parents were going to institutionalize you? And Tyler just says, quote, "Oh, I knew they were. I think I wanted them to," end quote. So I don't know if anyone out there has struggled with mental health. First of all, there's help. We're going to put some resources in the show notes. If you're in the US, you can also go to spotify.com/resources. If you're struggling with mental health, this is your sign to get help. It's a good time. Start of the new year.
It's going to be a great year.
Yes.
I'm speaking it into existence.
And there's nothing wrong with getting help. I've gone to therapy plenty of times.
Oh.
Plenty of times. But
I am the biggest proponent of therapy. I tell my parents, I said, you should go to therapy. Not in a bad way. I'm saying it, like anything you're struggling with, literally big or small, they're there for you. Yep.
But for Tyler, it's the same thing we were saying about Tyler. You get out what you put in. So you got to if you go get help, it takes
seriously.
work.
Take it seriously.
Medications can definitely help and, all of that. But you got to there's work to be put in. And it's not easy, but you can do it.
Don't be discouraged if the first therapist or couple of therapists you try, they're not a good fit. Maybe you don't like the way they respond or whatever. That's okay.
It might take a couple tries to find one that you like. That's New Year's resolution. Try out a few therapists in Q1. Okay? You got first 3 months of the year. Try out a few different ones and try and find one that you like.
Yep.
So Tyler was saying, he's like, I kind of knew my parents were going to institutionalize me. Like they didn't know how to help him and they were extremely worried about him. We talked about this in the episode on the case. Well, his mother, Mary Jo, had told a friend that she was going to put him into an institution. And the friend asked, are you worried about him hurting you? And she said, no, I'm worried about him hurting himself. So they knew something major was wrong. And so David kind of interrupts Tyler at this point. And he's like, okay, well, if you wanted them to institutionalize you, then why did you resist? And Tyler just says that he wasn't really sure. And it was probably just because he wanted to keep doing what he was doing. He's like, I was out of control and I wanted to do whatever I wanted, basically. But at the same time, it kind of sounds like he knew he was in a really, really bad place. And even though he didn't want to do it, he kind of knew that.
He's like, I don't know what else to try either. I'm like right with them. Like, what else is there?
Right, exactly. And so he does admit in this interview that he kind of thinks that this constant punishment from his parents and the threat of being institutionalized built up a rage inside of him. And this rage was starting to be directed at his parents. Now, if you're looking to this episode, because I know I went into this interview wanting I want to know, why did you do it? I wanted a clear answer on why he did it.
Like, what was going through your head when you did that?
Right. And I hate to report back. There really is no clear answer. And I think it's very unclear to Tyler as well why he did it. But we'll go over some more of the clues, I guess. So David asked Tyler about all of these messages and stories about him telling friends before the murders that he was going to kill his parents. And David's like, all your friends thought you were joking at first. And Tyler goes, I thought I was joking at first. And he says that over time, he just started to latch onto this thought about, well, what if?
It takes over your brain. Yeah.
Yes.
That's all you think about.
Yes. And it became a compulsive thought. He couldn't get it out of his head. He says that 2 days before the murders, it's stuck in his head. It's all he's thinking about. And he actually stood over his parents. I believe they were sleeping. He was just holding garden shears over them, and he's debating doing it. Now, he decides at this time, not to. But in his mind, he just kept thinking, well, if I do it, if I just get it over with, I'll stop thinking
maybe
about
then I'll
it.
feel better. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He thought he would feel some sort of relief. So that's 2 days before. We know that the night before, he goes out to dinner with his parents, which, by the way, from this interview, it sounded like he was with his parents and grandparents. Because I remember when we first recorded the episode, I was saying it said the whole Hadley family, but I think his brother was at school. So I don't know if it's just Tyler and his parents, but I believe it was his grandparents too.
Okay.
So that's what it sounds like from this, at least. Now, the day of the murders, Tyler woke up at 9:30, and it's early that afternoon that he began texting friends about having a party that night. Now, if you listen to the first episode, we know his parents never would have let him have this party. And so he's texting his friends saying they're out of town. They weren't going out of town. So this shows you at this point, he knows what he's going to do. Now, Tyler kind of says it differently. He tells David that he didn't know he was going to do it at that point. Because David's asking him, he's like, well, obviously you were going to do it. You're texting your friends. He goes, I didn't know, but I couldn't get the thought out of my head. So he's kind of saying, it sounds like he was just on the fence about it. Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? So around 5 p.m., he does it. He attacked his mother with a large claw hammer. And I didn't know this part of it. I think most of the attack was actually with the back of the hammer, like the claw part, which is extra horrific in some way. And he attacks his mother, and he tells David that he doesn't remember if she was facing him or looking at him or what. But he does remember her screams as she was asking him, why? Now, David asks him if he remembers what he was thinking about in that moment. And Tyler he says no. He explains, I felt my face contracting in this way. And he's doing this upwards motion with his hands next to his face. I'm picturing a Joker smile, the way he's motioning. He's like, quote, I felt my face contracting this way in a maniacal rage, end quote. He continues later. He says, quote, I can't even contort my muscles like that. I can't even sit here and try to do that, end quote.
This is giving me Shining vibes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Tyler hit his mom over 30 times. And in this commotion, Blake ran out to see what was going on. And Tyler says that for a moment, Blake comes into the room and he and Tyler have the stare down as Blake processed what was happening. I'm sure it was just shock. And he says that he must have run over really fast because he, quote, got right to him, end quote. He says the only thing in his mind at this point was do it. Do it. So he begins attacking Blake, who also asked Tyler, why? And this is when Tyler began responding, why not? Why the fuck not? And it's just horrific to think about what the parents must have been thinking. To know that your son
be so confused
is murdering you.
Yeah.
In the first episode, we talk about something Tyler had said back in the day. That's how he knew his parents really loved him, because they didn't fight back. And I always found that weird. And David asks him during this interview about that quote. And Tyler says, no, they did fight back, at least his dad. His mom was on the computer, so he attacked. He at least started the attack.
She was kind of
from
blindsided.
behind. But his father did try and fight back. But, you know, he had a weapon. And I mean, one hit to the head with a hammer will really take you out. Because dad was a big guy. He was a lot bigger than Tyler.
But also, I'm sure he didn't fully process it yet, because it would take me a long time to process that my kid was murdering his mom, let alone trying to murder me as well.
And you don't
And it's
have
like,
that
what do you
much
do?
time, though, because
that,
this
and
is
it's like,
a few
what does your
minutes.
fight or flight, you know, do in that situation with your own child? I
don't
feel like you would
know.
have so many conflicting emotions and thoughts, and I don't think anyone would know how to act in that moment.
It's just horrific.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrific. And I feel like that's why everybody wants to know so bad why he did this, because, you know, with the Menendez brothers, you can look at it and you see that there's
like
sexual
chronically
abuse
abused.
and all of this, and you almost feel better in a way, because you go, well, I would never do that to my child, so that's not going to happen to me. But in this case, you don't see the clear reasoning, and so it gives you this fear, like, well, what if my
like if I give my kids no reason to murder me and they do, it's like, what do I do to prevent that?
Right. It's just, it's terrifying. Now, David also points out that the autopsies showed that they were alive for most of the attack. And Tyler just says, yeah. He's like, they were alive for most of the attack, right? And Tyler's like, yeah. And this is why you have to watch the video. Okay?
Yeah, I think I need to watch it.
I'm sorry. This is just one long commercial and they're not paying me for this. I wish they would. But like, go watch this video, because like the look on his face when he just says, yeah, like you can just see, I kind of think remorse.
Oh yeah.
And
From what you're saying that he was talking about during the interview, it's like, you can tell that he was like, yeah, they were great parents. I don't even know why I did it myself. Like,
yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but he's also had 15 years to think about it, you know, like that sucks.
Right. And we'll get to at the end of what he says about how he feels about it now. So, according to earlier statements from Tyler, like this is when he was going through psych evaluations and going to court and all of that. He said that he believed he was in a blind rage. He was in like a psychotic state and all of that. And during this court TV interview, he tells David, quote, "Then I looked in the mirror and I laughed. I went in my bathroom mirror and I was covered in blood everywhere, my whole everything. There was blood all over the place and I laughed at myself in the mirror," end quote. David asked if he thought it was funny, and Tyler says it wasn't a funny laugh. It was a deranged laugh.
That's like almost when you're like losing your shit, because I've definitely had that laugh before when you're like, I can't cry because I don't even know. I'm like past the point of crying to like be hysterical, that you just like laugh because it's like the situation is,
it's like your body's blocking you from the emotion you really should be feeling.
Yeah.
And so you're like laughing instead. Now, Tyler says that after the fact, like after killing his parents, he felt relieved. He felt this sense of finality, really, because all of those compulsive thoughts that he had been having were now gone. Like his whole brain was like, just do it. Like, and now that he did it, it's
like
done.
the end goal, you know, for the voices in his brain.
Right. And so he explains that he puts his parents into the bedroom. He piles up all the evidence into one room because he couldn't bear to look at it, which this was one of my big questions, was why did he stack all the stuff there?
Yeah, like what was going through his head when, like, after all of that, after he got done laughing in the bathroom, he's like, well, shit, now I got to clean all this up. And I'm just like he had to physically move his dead parents that he just like fucking
and they're
brutally
heavy. Like
murdered.
his dad was big.
Yeah, he was a big dude.
Like I think they said he was like 250 or 280 or something.
Easily.
Like that is not easy.
Yeah.
And that was my bit. I'm like, what is the psychology behind why is he stacking all the stuff on them?
Yeah.
But it doesn't, at least from Tyler's understanding of it, at least it doesn't seem like there was a purpose to like the stacking and the piling on top of them.
To me, it sounds like he was just trying to get him out of sight.
Yes.
And everything else that had evidence on it, he's like, just put it in this room. I don't care how it's whatever.
He wanted to make
just
it go
throw it in
away.
there.
He couldn't bear to look at it, and he felt, quote unquote, a little shame about it at that point. David asks him, did you feel shame at that point? And Tyler said, a little. And that's why he said he couldn't bear to look at it. So he's just tossing everything into that room, and it took him way longer than he expected. But it just sounds like he was just, it wasn't purposeful stacking. It was just that, get it out of my sight as quick as possible.
Like
just
trying
throw
to cover
in
it
there.
up so I can't look at them and get it out of here.
Right. David then asks him about the party. He's like, what was the party all about? Why did you kill your parents, basically, and then throw a party?
Yeah.
That is so crazy. And Tyler basically just says that his whole plan from the get-go was to do it, and then he was going to kill himself. So he wasn't trying to celebrate the murder of his parents. He was trying to have like one last blowout before he takes his own life. At trial, he tries to argue the insanity defense. He's saying like he was insane and whatever, but then people point to all this like planning beforehand and like hiding everything and all of this stuff. He now admits that like he was sane during the crime, but the whole point was that he was going to die too. It wasn't to kill his parents so he could do whatever he wanted and live life without them and have this big party. It was, he was in so much turmoil. He wanted his life to end. And then there's some rage with his parents. And, you know, we don't fully understand why the parents are included in this. But was he mentally ill? Yes. But Tyler admits now, I was mentally ill, but not insane.
Yeah.
I was sane.
He was still
I
in
knew
his right
what had
mind.
happened.
He wasn't,
And he was purposefully, like during trial and during all of his interviews with psychiatrists and things like that who were evaluating him for the trial, he was purposely misleading them. He told them he heard voices and all of this stuff that was not true. Tyler said, I didn't hear voices, none of that. He never expected to get arrested because he thought he was going to die.
He's like, I'm going to kill myself before I get arrested.
He said he never thought about the possibility of being arrested for this because he was going to end his life. And so when he was in that position, he was like, well, what can I do to get out of it? I'm going to pretend I'm insane. Now, this is kind of when David asks, like points out to Tyler the debate that we had in our episode on the case. Is Tyler sick and treatable, or is he irredeemable? Is he a menace to society that will hurt a bunch of people if he gets out? Or was he someone that was sick, he can be treated, and he can go free? Now, Tyler says that he does believe he is treatable, but he adds that he doesn't believe that he deserves a chance at redemption. So he says, would I ever, you know, is he going to hurt other people, whatever? No, he's not this monster. He's not this violent. But he doesn't think he deserves another chance at having a life or getting out of prison or anything like that. And what I will say is on that point, I wholeheartedly agree with Tyler Hadley. He does not deserve a chance at redemption. And this goes back to like the age-old debate of what is the purpose of imprisoning people? Is it to punish them? Is it to protect society from them, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
So just because someone is safe to be let out,
but
doesn't
how
mean
would
they
they
should
know?
be.
How would they know? Isn't it supposed to be like if they're a harm to themselves also and others if they're let out of prison?
I don't know about prison, you know, if you're
Because
a
like
harm
who's to say if they let him out and he's like, well, okay, I'm going to kill myself now then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know really like what the law actually says about that, but I have a feeling in reality, whatever it's supposed to be, I think in reality they probably don't care.
Yeah.
And people have the same debate with the Menendez brothers. Like, can they be let out of prison if they were being abused? And, you know, they would never do this to someone else because they're not being abused by other people. Should they be let out? And I think that's the question is, well, it depends on how you feel. What is prison for? Is it to protect the public?
I mean, you could also say that about the Luigi Mangione guy that just murdered that CEO.
Right.
He had a motive to do that, but is he going to do it to somebody else? Who knows? He said, that was it. That was why. This is why I did it. He also said he's not guilty though, right? He's claiming he's not guilty.
I think so.
So, but yeah, that's like him. Felt like he was wronged and he took care of it. And then now what other threat is there to him?
Right.
You know?
And I think I'm sure that everyone will agree with me, unless you're like real cuckoo nutso. Like there is at least some sense of it's a punishment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think anyone is going to say, oh, well, you killed
Prison
someone.
is only for rehabilitation.
And I'm not talking about cases of self-defense or anything like that. I'm just talking about like, you hate your wife, so you kill your wife. Well, you're not going to kill anybody else because you hated her specifically because she cheated on you, let's say. So is the rest of the world really, are you a danger to the rest of the world? No. But that doesn't mean you should just go free.
Yeah.
There is some sense of punishment.
It's still wrong, yes.
But it's the question of, well, how much punishment is deserved and whatever. And I will give you my opinion, even though you didn't ask for it. I think Tyler Hadley deserves to spend his life in prison.
Yeah.
I truly do. And in this interview that they do with him, they also interview his uncle Mike, who we talked a good amount about in the first episode. And, Mike definitely believes that Tyler should be in prison for the rest of his life. And that's his nephew. Like, he loved him for a long time. And again, I really recommend watching this interview. Even the few minutes that they're interviewing Mike, they play a couple few minute clips. It is very horrifically intriguing to hear his perspective. He was just absolutely shocked. He had no idea that Tyler would ever do anything like this. He thought Tyler was a happy kid. He talks about how much he loved his parents, even, just the weeks before the murder. Like they'd all be together and he just seemed happy and was like sitting on his mom's lap and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to hear because, it's one of those things that seems unreal. Like how did it seem so good even to people close on the inside,
Yeah.
And even Tyler saying it was good.
Yeah.
They were good. They were saints.
Even his brother said that too, right? He was like, there was no issues, like other than the normal teenage boy drama shit.
It's just
I think that's the scariest part is that there was no red flags from anybody, including his parents or his brother or anybody that was around him, like his friends, nobody. And he was still capable of doing that. I would never want somebody like that to be walking around. I don't know. That's just me, though.
Right. Now, David ends the interview by asking Tyler why he thinks he killed his parents. Tyler tells him, quote, "I think it was to stop all of our pain. And other than that, I can't even sit here and answer that with any clarity, with any reasonable guess. I can't. It's still not clear to me." End quote.
So he still doesn't even know why.
He still doesn't even know why he did it. I thought that was interesting, though. He's like, I think it was to stop all of our pain. And it just makes you, what got so twisted in his mind?
To make him think that that was the only option.
Right. And why take, not that no one should ever take their own life, but why are you taking your parents' life? That's your plan. You're in so much pain and you're going to take your own life. Why are you taking your parents' life beforehand?
Like, why bring them into this?
Because it sounds like he felt like he was causing their pain. And it's just, it's so interesting. And, I hate to be anticlimactic, but, I was watching this interview hoping like, oh, he's going to tell us he was abused
give
the whole
us some
time.
answers.
And there was going to be some answer or some inkling as to why he did this. But I think I feel just as confused as after the first episode. It's like, he can say there, he had this rage and there were these compulsive thoughts and whatever, but you really can't even see twisted logic and like, oh, well, my brain thought if I did this, then this would be this way or something. Yeah. You can't even see messed up, twisted logic. Like, I don't see the thought process or the logic here at all. So it's very scary. But that is where I am going to end it for the Tyler Hadley interview. Like I said, there is so much that I did not put in here This is a long commercial for the court TV interview. You
An
have to go
extended
watch
ad.
it. It is very, very interesting. So I will link it in the show notes. And then with that being said, I think have a happy new year. Try and forget about this. But yeah, have a happy new year. Don't drink and drive.
Call an Uber, Lyft, anybody. Call
An
your
Uber,
grandma.
a Lyft. Call your grandma.
Somebody.